for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here. I'm really thrilled to see you all again. It's been a long time since we actually connected. All right, so introductions. I'm David Amerland. What do? I write books and I give talks and I do some strategy sessions for large corporations, and I blog and write and do stuff like that.
Change your mind. All changes we want to see in the outside world and our environment start from within. We are the ones that need to change first. David Amerland, Sniper Mind.
Like many people, since Google Plus closed down, I'm homeless. I'm sort of going around here and there and sort of, talking to people here and putting some posts in certain places like LinkedIn and like Twitter primarily and YouTube for videos. But there's no feeling like Google Plus. It was an amazing place. I just feel honored to have been through that journey and to have met so many great people through that. Fortunately, there isn't, and it's very easy to get angry at Google, and I am, believe you me. But at the same time, it's part of the evolution of the web. It's changing. We need to change with it. It's tragic that it happened, but we just need to find new ways to maintain the connections and to make a difference as we go across the digital sphere. You posed a problem which many businesses face, and very few businesses have actually solved. Even large businesses with a global audience that has a sort of a localized presence that may be national to a particular country. Now, essentially, this is being true to who you are, being true to your audience, and actually finding the resonance between them and you. And if you find that, even if you post it in the open space of the world through one of the social media channels, if you're called out or if you are challenged by a so-called influencer, then all that they are showing is that they're challenging a value that is important to your audience, that it's core in who you are and it's part of your sort of core identity. And there's no problem with that. They will only sort of fall flat on their face, and your audience will actually rise to your defense because they will actually be able to understand what it is. And the noise which will surround such an event will be to your benefit. The reason so many businesses actually fall flat on this is that they try to be something they're not. Then when they're challenged, they get defensive. Then when they get defensive, they prove to be not who they are or who they say they are, or not, there's a gap between their professed values and their actions. And that is a real problem. And I think, this gap needs to close. The cognitive dissonance that arises from this needs to disappear. And the moment that happens, well, you have an unassailable position. Focus on the negative right now because it affects us so much at a time when we already feel vulnerable in the world, and at the same time we feel helpless sometimes to actually change it when there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of infighting and outfighting going on social media platforms. At the same time, this is the messy connectivity of the human condition. People across the world from different tribes getting together and initially perhaps throwing stones at each other. But eventually that will also be the same medium through which we come to interact. So overall, this is a positive thing. And I think we've seen the same thing in the real world. Every time we have any kind of international space through which we connect, an international body through which we all connect by contributing equally to it, we go through the same stage of norming, storming, forming, and performing. In its entirety, it teaches us how to clarify what we want, understand who we are, and determine where we're heading. And if we know those things, then we make better choices at any particular time in any particular context. So even if we take, whichever context humans work in, we can't be everything to everyone. We can't do everything at once. We can't be everywhere at once. So we have to be able to focus, which means we need to be able to prioritize, which then allows us to allocate our resources, mental, emotional, psychological, in order to achieve those goals. And if we don't know what those goals are, then, we don't know how to do this. If we can't focus, then we don't know how to achieve it. So essentially, the sniper mind is the techniques which we need in order to do the things which we feel we have to do when the time comes for us to do them. social media is in many ways a magnifying lens. It's a very narrow channel which cuts out all the distractions, narrows down the extraneous information that personal contact would give us, and allows us perhaps to project particular aspects of who we are or what we believe. And that creates the potential for conflict. At the same time, although we see these differences and it's good to see them, we also intuitively begin to understand that, we are all people inhabiting the same planet, sharing exactly the same basic goals. Once that sinks through, then, we already have the channels for connection. So I think, again, overall, we're heading in the right direction, even though it's painful right now. Back to this now. Capitalism in its sort of most sort of hardline form is there to make money and create profit and generate value for specific companies and individuals. And when it does that, it creates certain things and innovates like we have now. And once then it does and it creates the ecosystem and we're part of it, then it is back upon us to create a kind of pressure which will humanize that system for us. At the end of the day, it's a symbiotic relationship. If we all take our ball and go home and refuse to communicate, $1 trillion industry is going to evaporate in a day. So obviously we're not willing to do that because we gain something out of it. But this is the whole conversation we're having as part of the transmutation, if you like, of our digital civilization. We're at the beginning of it. Other things came along and sort of a better balance was found. And that's where we're heading. And back to your question, what can we do? We shouldn't be complacent. Sure, we use their services, but at the same time, they use our data. So we should be aware of the value we bring to that enterprise. We should be aware of our own ability to change things. And the moment we see something that is not what we like, we should actually speak up. We shouldn't be afraid. You need to be perhaps a child, like perpetually curious. You need to be a little bit brave because sometimes you go off on a limb and you put yourself out there and you could be wrong. I mean, this is a conscious decision I've made in my writing. And it's scary. I could sort of write about search, which is a safe subject for me now, forever. But I choose to go into other subjects which are tangential but also related. And sometimes I'm just out on a limb, making assumptions and putting thoughts out there, and I have no idea if I'm correct or not. I just hope I am. And, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. There you go. Each of my books is dear to me because literally it's a struggle to get through it and write it and complete it in a sort of way that actually makes sense. So it's hard to choose from any of them, but obviously the one that's dearest in my heart right now is The Sniper Mind, not least because I spent 3 years in a really deep dive in a very new world for me. It really challenged my brain and my thinking and everything else. But also I think it's very current in the way we experience the world, the way we experience each other in that world, and also the decision-making process that we are actually being called upon to make now, both as individuals, but also as a collective where we actually have to work with others.